everyone, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you how to make just a cute, fun, dangly pair of earrings. They're really in style right now with the chain and kind of the fun look for the summer. These are going to be using cylinder beads. The beads here are malachite beads that I've used in the example with some gold Italian chain. I'm going to be using some amethyst cylinders, and these are a 3 by 10 millimeter cylinder. I'm also using some Italian rectangle chain, and it's 3.7 by 2 millimeters in size. I'm going to use about 4 inches on each earring, so I'm using 8 inches total. I have my ear wires here that I'm going to connect everything to, and some 22 gauge round wire. I'm going to be using silver filled wire. Tool-wise that you need a needle nose pliers. Whether or not you're using a bent needle nose or a straight needle nose, that's up to you. I prefer the bent needle nose. You just want to make sure that it's flat inside, whatever you do have. I also am going to be using a round nose pliers to make some round loops. And then I have a wire cutters. The wire cutters I'm going to use to cut the wire and the chain and to kind of pull it all together. So to get started, I have a piece of my 22 gauge wire, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make little links with my tubes here, with my cylinders. The round nose pliers, what you can do is also put a piece of masking tape or draw a line with a Sharpie so you know that you're getting the same loop size every time. I'm going to hold the pliers where I can see the wire that's hanging in there that I'm holding, but I can't feel it here at the top. I'm going to simply turn it and roll it over. That's going to get my little loop. The little loop is going to be off to the side, and I want that eye pin to be nice and straight. So I'm going to go back into the round nose pliers, always where the wire stops, and just kind of straighten out that wire a little bit and give it a 45-degree turn. And that's going to make it nice and straight eye pin. I'm going to put my cylinder on the end of my wire and push it right up next to my loop. Once I have that there, I'm going to go right into my cylinder here. Go a little bit above it. You can grab your needle nose pliers if you want. I'm just going to continue with my round nose. And I turn the pliers just a little bit. You can see kind of it on the angle there, how it has an angle. Holding right where I did when I made my first loop, I'm going to take the wire over the top of the round nose pliers and make my loops the same size. That's going to be my first little section. I'm going to go in with my wire cutters here, and I'm going to cut off the extra wire. You can go back in then with your round nose or with your needle nose and kind of close up those loops. There's one, and again I'm going to be using 10 cylinders, so I'm going to do the same thing 10 times. Again, grabbing my wire where I can see it but I can't feel it there at the top, turning over, making a little loop, and then correcting it and doing a little half bend with my pliers, putting on a cylinder, and then going in and making a loop on the other side. I do want to make sure that the loops are facing in the same direction. If your loop does go off to the side, you can just go in with your needle nose pliers and kind of turn it a little bit, because the wire that we're using, this 22 gauge, is not too stiff. And there's 2. And again, we're doing 10 of these. And we're going to continue on doing more of these till I get to 10. And then we get to assemble the earrings. And I have 3 done. I'll do a couple more here on screen, and then I'll do a couple off. Just sliding the beads and cylinders on. You can see I cut about 10 inches of wire because I am just going right off of one piece. What you can do is cut smaller pieces if you want. I like to work just with one big piece and continue on making my loops and my little links here. And I'll have 5 done here for one of my earrings, and then I'm going to do 5 for the other one. So there's 5, and I'm going to do 5 for my other set as well. So I have all my little pieces here that I'm going to use. I also took my 6mm faceted round amethyst beads and I used those to be a link as well. Here on my project I actually have turquoise 4mm, so you can use 4mm or 6mm. That's up to you. What I'm going to do is actually start at the top and kind of work my way to the bottom. I'm going to take my 6mm amethyst and I'm going to put it onto my ear wire. I'm going to use my needle nose pliers and kind of close up my ear wire. At the same time, I'm also going to make sure that my loops are closed that I'm working with. Onto the bottom loop of the 6mm, I'm going to slide on 2 of my cylinders. And then I'm going to close up that bottom loop. I want to also make sure that the loops at the top of the cylinders here are closed, nice and tight on both sides so they don't come apart. If you have a cylinder that has a big enough hole, you can even use 20 gauge wire to do this rather than the 22 gauge. So there's the start of it here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my middle bar cylinder. So that's going to link on here to one side. Close that up nice and tightly. Go to the other side. Open up one of your links and attach that on as well. Then I'm going to close up both of those rings, or both of those loops. And that gets my middle triangle section there. Next, what I'm going to do is do the portions that drop down to the sides. I'm going to go into that center cylinder bar, and I'm going to add another one of my cylinders. Again, making sure that that loop's closed there at the top. And same thing on the other side, attaching it to one of my other cylinders. And then again, making sure that that loop's nice and closed. And that's going to make my formation for my earring. All I need to do now is attach my chain, which I'm going to cut. And I'm going to cut and build the earrings at the same time when it comes to the chain, so that way I know that the chain's hanging the same length. You can also grab a ruler if you want to, or you can just count the number of links. What I'm going to do to cut my chain is to actually use a scrap piece of my metal, and I'm going to have 2 sides of the chain on, and then I'm going to determine the lengths that I want and cut straight across. Then one will go to the earring to the right, one will go to the earring to the left. Again, I'm going to grab another piece. I'll do the same thing. And you can make these pieces of chain as long or as short as you want them to be. That's up to you. This is some differing lengths here. That way it gives it a little bit of a kind of artistic look to it. I'm just slightly changing them, but I'm making sure to go into my piles right and left. This last one I'm going to make just a little bit longer and link that on as well. Once I have my cut chain, I'm going to go into one of my earrings and I'm going to start putting on my pieces of my chain. If you want to, you can be very particular and put the chain on in the order that you cut them, but I'm just going to put it on through my last link here of all my pieces. And I did 4 pieces, and then I'm going to close it up. I'm going to go to the other side then and link in the ends of the chain on the other side. Now that you've got all the chain linked into one side, we're going to link it into the other side. Here's where I do want to kind of keep it in order, that I want to link the first one that is over here on this side in first. If you don't keep it in order, it's not a huge deal because the chain will be free floating at the bottom anyway. And pick up the next one, link that one in. doesn't want to go there for me. And then once you have them all linked in, you're just going to close it up. There's 2. There's 3. And then I got 1 more to link in. Once I have all 4 linked in, I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and I'm going to close up that loop nice and tight. And then I have my fun little chain and dangly earrings that they have a fun, funky look to them. Great for spring since the long earrings are in style, and they have just a nice fun look. You can use this as really great with scraps of chain or just a couple beads. It doesn't matter, the cylinders add a little bit more of a shape texture to it, but you can use really any sort of bead to do this and to make the links out of and to have the chain. So hopefully this gives you an idea to maybe use up some of the beads that you have or some of the chain that you might have that you have laying around, just little pieces of, and also gives you an idea for some springtime jewelry, because we all love warm weather and I know it's been a long winter for most of us. So hopefully you've gotten a little fun craft here that you can make, and it's just a nice, easy, simple wire working craft. If you get a chance, you can also check us out online at potomacbeads.com. We'd love to see you at one of our locations. If you can't get to one of our locations, you can also visit us online at thebeadco.com and shop for materials that way. Thanks a lot for watching, and happy beading, everyone.